Hey everybody, here comes the demonstration for the mock Match-3 puzzle game UI/HUD setup. Um, so assignment 3 for Adobe Illustrator and uh, Adobe Photoshop. Okay, so first things first, everything's going to start here. After clicking new document, we'll get open our templates. I'm going to go with a standard 1920 by 1080p layout, but we're going to go in profile here like this. Also want to make sure we're set to pixels. We're set to RGB. We're going to set the PPI to 300. Okay. And then we're going to click create. Okay. Now we're going to be doing this from the point of view of a mobile device, touchscreen, someone playing in this direction. Okay. So the first thing that we're going to want to try to do here is we're going to need some sort of play area border, right? So any Match-3 game has some kind of play area that has, all of the puzzle pieces in some kind of invisible grid layout where the player can, grab, match, and move all of the items, whatever items you guys want to make. So these can be candies, they can be jewels, things you find in space, or your favorite video game character faces, whatever you want to do. But we need a play area first. So the first thing we're going to do is create a custom brush in order to make a custom border layout. Now you can do any kind of design or pattern you want to do. I'm just going to show you a basic simple one here. Okay. So one thing we can do is we can first set up a grid properly. So we're going to go to view, and inside of view, we're going to see this says show grid. Once we do that, we're going to end up with this grid. Okay. Now the grid is going to allow us to place our layout of our Match-3 game very precisely. Now if we go to edit preferences, guides and grids, we're going to be able to set up our grid, the grid line spacing and the subdivisions. So what I've chosen to do here is go 90 pixels for every grid line. Okay. So that's every grid line being the more bold lines you see. By doing 90 or across at 1080, it's a perfect 12 squares across. Okay. And in subdivisions, 12 just gives just enough spacing here for puzzle pieces in between to have space between them. Okay. So I'm going with a grid line every 90 pixels with 12 subdivisions. Okay. Now I'm just going to zoom in here, and we are going to make a custom brush pattern. And once again, I'm just going to keep this simple. I'm just going to use some oval shapes here. So I'm just going to make myself an oval like this. Okay. I'm going to use the fill color, and I'm going to grab the fill color and just make it invisible. Okay. So it's transparent. So we just have a stroke color of black like that. Okay. And then the other thing is I'm going to go to view. I'm going to turn on snap to grid. And now I'm going to make my oval just the right size to perfectly fit across two grid blocks like that. Okay. Now, very specifically, we're going to Control C, which is going to copy that, and Control F. Now, I'm going to open up my layers panel so you can see when I hit Control F, it did in fact paste a second ellipse, but you're not seeing it because Control F, unlike Control V, will paste it directly on top of the previous piece. Okay, and then I'm going to move this over till it's centered to the next grid, giving this little bit of an overlap like this. Okay. Now that I've done this, I can Control C, Control F, and Control D, and my pattern will duplicate and automatically move over exactly where we want it. And I can do this a couple times. Control C for copy, Control F to paste in front, Control D to displace or duplicate it over here. Okay. One last time, Control C, Control F, Control D. There you have it. All right, now I can grab both of these if I choose to, and I can move them over if I want. Okay. Now we're going to hit Control R, is going to open up some guide, like rulers on the top and side of our work area. And the reason that I've done this is because if I go over to this left side ruler and click, I can drag out a guideline that I'm going to put right in the middle of this oval. And I can do another one if I want and drag it right along here. This gives me something else to snap to. Now we have snap to grid on. This is purely for demonstration purpose. But with the snap to grid on, this would have worked just fine anyways. Okay, but so now if I select all of my ovals here, we're going to go to Object, Expand, and we're going to turn this into a fill. So I'm going to click OK. Okay. So now you'll note the change took place here when the fill is now a question mark. Okay. Now we want this to become a brush that has, like, it needs to continue on to the next piece over. So in order to do that, we're just going to cut this ovals on each end in half. So the way I'm going to do this is I'm just going to grab a square or a cube like this. Okay. And I'm going to set the the fill color to white. I'm going to hold Alt, get my selection tool, hold Alt, and I'll duplicate another one. Okay. And I've just hidden them. You can see they're just behind that, and I'm using my measure line to line this up. Now I'm going to group select all of it, and we're going to go to the Properties tab. And over here, you're going to notice something called Pathfinder. And what we want to do here with Pathfinder is we're going to expand these more options, and we're going to do Merge. Okay. Now by doing Merge, we end up merging all of these pieces together, effectively cutting off those ovals. And now if I were to double click, I can isolate and grab my, sorry, here we go, try this again. There we go. I can now grab my pattern that I'm making. Now, if I move it, you'll notice that it kind of has this weird glitchy thing going on. We can fix that real quick by going to we're going to go to Select, Same, Fill Color, and then Select Inverse. Make sure it's selected. Select Inverse. I'm going to change the stroke to black here. You could do a color if you like as well. And the fill, I'm going to make it blank. Now if I move this around, you should see now we got a uniform piece that isn't doing any weird fills or anything like that. Okay, so now we've got a brush. We've made a brush. But now we just need to add the brush to our collection of brushes. So we go to Window, Brushes, which will open up the Brushes window. And we can just drag and drop this into our brushes. We're going to create a pattern brush. Click OK. All right, and then we'll see all of these, and we can call this whatever you want to call it. We can say like chain. Okay, and you'll see here it got added as a brush. So now, if we were so inclined, we could delete what we've made here. Let's just select it all and delete it. Okay, and now if I were to say grab a square and select this brush, we would get this fancy pattern, right? Now, if you're questioning what's going on here in the middle, well, that's just the way the pattern came out repeated. You can see if I stretch it out, I can make it look more like what was intended. But if I go too far, it will duplicate more ovals. Okay. I also believe actually if I undo all of that, and if I grab our brush, and if I make it just smaller, I'll hold shift to make sure that it scales properly, and then we'll make a new pattern brush. We'll call this chain again. All right, and now I believe the pattern is either going to be the same or different. Yeah, so it's smaller now. See, so it duplicates much nicer. Okay, and it'll work with any shape. So I can even grab like a circle and apply it to the circle if I want. It'll even work with this. Okay. Should work with pretty much any shape we want to make. Okay. Now that we have a custom brush that we can use this brush to create the border for our Match-3 game. So I'm going to grab a rectangle here. And we're just going to start out by making a rectangle shape in here, pressing the V key. Gonna move this down. I'm gonna line it up right about here. Okay. If I apply our pattern, you'll see here we got it right nice on the grid. I'm gonna do mine to be 8 across, 12 high. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So I can grab this side here, bring it right onto that grid line, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Okay, so I need to come down to here. Okay. Now, if I want, I can go ahead and select my border here. I can get rid of my brushes if I'm done with them for now. And I want to give a little bit of height or depth to this. So I'm going to go to Effects, and I'm going to go to Stylize and grab a drop shadow. Now, the drop shadow, here, I'll zoom in on this a little bit so you can see it better. Grab the corner. Okay, so Effects, Stylize, drop shadow. So you can see here it adds a bit of a shadow. If you want it to be a little bit bolder, or you want it to be wider or softer, completely up to you. Okay. You want it to be more obvious like that. You can play with the settings in the drop shadow to get the effect that you want. Okay. Now our play area needs a background here. So what we can do is we're going to apply some AI. So here's what we can do. Let's think about what your theme is going to be. So I mean, it would be cliche to do candy or jewels at this point, but you're all free to do whatever you like. I'm going to go with maybe we'll do like a things you find in outer space type of thing. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab a square or rectangle if you prefer. Technically it is a rectangle. Okay. And I'm just going to size this to the size of the entire game area. Okay. Now, what I'm going to do here is I'm going to go ahead and beef up that fill a little bit to, I'm thinking like maybe 10. And then in the fill, we're going to grab this fill. We're going to grab this last. So by default, your fill looks like this. We're going to grab this last option here. Okay. Now this is for AI. Okay. And here's our prompt area. So we can ask it to generate patterns for us. So I'm going to do outer space themed. I can just type the word outer space and click on generate. Now this will take a little bit of time depending on your computer and internet connection. Okay. And then what we get is we'll get a couple of options for almost what looks like a kind of like a wallpaper. Okay. And then you can choose whichever one you think looks nicer. If you don't like any of them, you can regenerate. Okay. I'm going to choose this middle one. I think it quite looks quite. The purple does look nice too, but I'm going to choose this one. Okay. And then what I'm going to do here is I'm going to go into my opacity. And I'm just going to drop this down to about 30%. Okay. And then in my layers, I want to make sure that it's at the bottom of my layers because we actually want the border above, right? This is our background. It's meant to be all the way at the back. I'm going to go ahead and lock that now. Now it doesn't accidentally move. So we can work comfortably. And we got a nice themed background for our Match-3 game. Feel free to change the color of your border if you like. You know, maybe you can find a color that's more pleasing or contrasting. It's completely up to you. You'll have to change it back in the where you made the brush. You could, I guess, technically do a fill here if you like. Like you could do like a gray fill and then just bring that opacity down to get a little bit more of a darker play area. Maybe even we can go way darker. Yeah. And then drop that opacity like 50% if you want. Okay. Having a darker background in our play area like this will make our bright, colorful puzzle pieces pop a little bit more. Okay. And with that, we'll get to the point where we'll start drawing some puzzle pieces. But first, let's get to the rest of the HUD area. So what I'm thinking about doing here is adding a build-up meter here. So a meter on the side, where in theory, when the player makes matches, the meter will fill up. And when the meter fills up, the game will be over. So like the objective, if you will, how many matches they need to make. So what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to start with this shape, another rectangle like so. Okay. And I'm going to mind my grid. I'm just going to make things look even here. That looks about nice right there. We'll go down here. Looks like we're right on the money. Okay. Now, if you know anything about color theory, then you may have used something like a color wheel in the past. This is one I like to use here from Canva. Okay. Now, if you already know what kind of color you like, for example, you could start by picking the color. Like, let's say you want to do, something bluish, and that's cool. What you can do here is when it's set to complementary, what you'll see is you'll get the complementary color that goes with it. And you get the actual color code number here. Okay. So if you were looking for, say, something like green, this is the perfect complementary color. You could do a triadic as well, which I've done in the past, which gives you like 3 complementary colors. Here's ones for 4, but I don't think we need that much, right? And then you got your codes here, and then you can just write these codes down somewhere or leave this off to the side when you get your colors that you like. This is pretty RGB right here. You can do a little bit more monotone, or we can get a little bit more brighter. So completely up to you. It's just an option. You can use the color wheel. Having said that, I'm going to go back to complementary, and let's just say we go with something like this. This is very nice and unique. I'm going to pull this off to the side here, and I'm going to copy that brownish, reddish, maroon color first. And here's what I can do. I'm going to go into my stroke first, and I'm just going to remove the stroke. Oh, you know what? Actually, I'm going to keep the stroke and raise it by 3 points. Then I'm going to go to my fill. With the color mixer, down here with the little numbers is where I'm going to put these numbers, right? So I click that to copy to my clipboard. I'll go here, and I can Control V to paste. Press Enter, and you get the exact color that you just found. Okay. Now with that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to Control C, Control F, which should paste a second one of these right on top of the other one. And I'm just going to grab the top one, and I'm going to bring it down to like about there. Then I'm going to grab that second complementary color and change the fill of that. Paste, Enter. Okay. Now I'm going to just make myself a circle. Try that again. I'm just going to make myself a circle. There we go. Not a perfectly shaped one. Okay. And I'm going to just do a little like this. Probably just zoom in here. Whoops. Whoops, whoops. Let's zoom in again. There we go. I don't know why I choose to work so far away sometimes. And we'll just playing around with the sizes here. All right. We'll grab another one. I'm just using Alt and then dragging to duplicate these. Okay. And once I have all of that, what I'm going to do here is I'm going to group select or marquee select all of these items. And I'm going to use my favorite shaper tool, shape builder. I'm going to hold Alt, and I'm just going to trim off the side pieces like that. And then without holding Alt, I'm going to add these circle shapes to my bottom color like that. Kind of gives it this, like, you know, it's bubbling up and filling up. Another thing we could do here is we can specify what is this bar and make it clear, right? So I'm just going to lower this down a little bit. And what I'm going to do here is I'm going to grab some text. We're just going to put some text in here. I'm going to raise the text size to 72. And we're going to delete what's in there. And I'm just going to, all caps, write goal. Okay. Now you'll notice the text doesn't quite fit, but that's okay. Don't panic. Just pull this out a little bit, and you can scale this to look however you want it to look. I like to center my text. I find that helps. And feel free to play with any fonts and experiment with different fonts that you like. Okay? Some fonts will be bigger than others, so you might have to readjust your size depending on which font you choose. Okay. All right. Now with that, let's do another part of our HUD here. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to grab this one. Okay. And I'm going to round the corners just ever so slightly, about 25 pixels, not a whole lot. Then I'm going to hold Alt and duplicate this. And now I'm going to resize this HUD element to fill the space left up here, leaving some separation between the play area and this. So I'm just maintaining space from the edge like that. Okay. Now I'm going to create a kind of like a quest tracker, if you will. So let's just say, for example, one of my shapes will obviously be a star, right? Because I'm doing outer space theme. So we can go ahead and we can make our star piece real quick. Okay, so I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to hold Shift so that I get a star that's right side up. Okay. Obviously, I'm going to make the stroke on here. I'll make it black, I guess, for now. And then the fill is obviously going to be like a golden yellow. Okay. And then using my grid here, that actually looks about right, the right size. Oh, no, not quite. We're going to shrink this over one like that. There we go. I believe I've nailed it. Yeah, so looking at my grid, it's nice and center. I've got one square space of the subdivision around each side. So that, I think, is quite good. Okay. Now, I expect all of you to create something a little bit more detailed than this. But this is fine for my example. Okay. But I'm hoping to see some much nicer puzzle pieces from all of you. But with that, let's assume that this is one of my puzzle pieces. Okay. And I'm just going to put this over here. And then I'm going to create a rectangle. To the effect of something like this. Okay, I'm going to grab this corner and I'm going to go all the way this time, making it really nice and rounded. All right, and you know what? I think I'm going to leave it the yellow. I think it looks quite nice. Okay, what I'm going to do here is I'm going to go to my layers now. I'm going to select both my background and this meter, and we're going to lock them in place. Because now I'm going to grab some text. And this is like a bit of a quest thing. So, for example, if you make a match of 3 stars, we want to score those stars. And let's say if you get a total of 20 stars, you fill up this bonus and this mission, and it gives you a multiplier. Okay? So what I'm going to type here is, let's just say that it's out of 24, and let's say that they've gotten halfway there, right? So we're going to do 12 by 24 will be the count that we're proposing. I'm going to, oh, the text is already centered. Good. Okay. Whoops. I'm going to click back over to that. I'm just going to size this up a little bit. Now we can grab, we're going to unlock the bar behind, and I'm going to shift select our text in our bar. And we're going to go to properties, and we're just going to make sure we center align this nice. Okay. Good. So now we have one of these quest areas here. I'm starting to feel like it might be a little oversized. I'm going to grab all of it. No, not all of it. I'm going to grab just the bar and the numbers. I'm just going to scale it down a little bit. I don't want to change its length though. I liked its length very much. And then I believe what I'm going to do here is I'm actually going to bring this over. Again, you guys can choose to have your own little stylization to this. Okay, so I'm just showing you some examples of what you can do. I grab this, no, rather I'm going to grab the star, arrange, bring to front, and I'm going to apply a stylized drop shadow. Like that. Okay. I'm going to grab this again, and I'm just going to stretch it out to fill the gap. Okay. And there you have it. But clearly we've got this star bonus counter thing growing. Here we got 12 out of 24, which means, you know, the bar should be showing that it's like around 24 or halfway filled, right? So we're just going to Control C, Control F, our background piece, okay? And then we're going to scale this back to around its middle. Okay. Now, if we really wanted to, we could grab the color of this fill that we did, right? We can grab this and copy. And then we can go back to that color wheel that we had a second ago. And we could actually input the number here, paste, and it gives us the perfect complementary color for this. Where I can then grab this, and we can go to the fill. Try that again. And paste, enter. There we go. Okay, now it's starting to look quite nice. It's coming together now. We can grab our text as well, and we can add a stroke around it. Like, let's say we add a white stroke around it. It might help it make a little bit more legible. We could also add FX, stylize, and another drop shadow to that if we so desire, like that. Okay. Helps it pop a little bit. Another option too is we could take the fill color and make it white, and then get rid of the stroke altogether. That also kind of works. And then of course you could do the total opposite where you just make the stroke black, which also works. So whatever you feel makes everything legible is totally fine. We should probably just keep things consistent and add drop shadows. Most of our text, I believe it helps everything look nicer and pop more. Okay. So with that, you guys will make 5 different puzzle pieces, I believe. Okay. So assume that I've made a different puzzle piece here. I'm just going to hold Alt and duplicate this quest tracker like so. I'm just going to make sure things are fairly evenly spaced. And lined up properly. Okay. Using my grid, of course. Now you can set these to different levels, put different puzzle pieces there as you would. Okay. Also, it'd be a pretty good idea at this point to start grouping and organizing your layers appropriately. So for instance, I could grab all of these, Control G, and we are going to name this group quest tracking. Okay. Now we need a score. So let's add a score. I know scores are probably not super duper popular these days for games, but for puzzle games like this, Match-3 style, score is usually a pretty big one. Now, we need to track our multiplier as well. So whatever our multiplier is, we can add, some text somewhere to show a multiplier, plus our score. So what I'm going to do here is I am going to grab another box like so. And this time I'm going to make the background of it black. And we're going to apply a really cool trick to this. So I'm just going to scale this so that it makes sense in the space. That looks good. Okay. And I'm going to go ahead and lock this right now, but we'll have to unlock it again in a moment. Okay. I'm only locking it right now because I'm going to add some text for the score. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to change that fill color to white so we can see the text that we're about to write, and I'm going to delete. And then I'm going to type in a score. So I'm going to do 1, 2, 3, comma, 4, 5, 6, comma, 7, 8, 9. Okay, that's going to be my score for now. I'm going to raise the size of this beyond the 72 limit to 125. Nope. Or wait, maybe, yeah. Hold on, let's grab this. We just need to scale this thing to fill our scoreboard up. There we go. That looks great. Okay, I'm going to scale this to make it look nice. Okay. Now we're going to unlock our background again. And we're going to shift select the background as well. We go to properties. We're going to align center and align the middle like that. Perfect. Okay. Now we're going to give this a fake effect of the scoreboard glowing. So what we'll do here is we're going to grab our numbers. Okay. We're going to go into effects. We're going to go down to blur. We're going to grab Gaussian blur. We're going to apply a 0.3 blur to start. Okay. If we just give it a sec, may not be super noticeable right now. But things just got a little pixelated. Okay. Now with the score selected, I'm going to Control C for copy. Control F is going to paste another copy of the scoreboard right on top. If we look here, we now have 2 scoreboards here in the layers. Okay. But I'm going to go to the properties and open up that Gaussian blur we applied. And from 0.3, I'm going to put it to 10. And now I'm just going to repeat that process. Control C to copy, Control F to paste directly in front. Gaussian blur, we're going to raise this to 25. Click OK. And then Control C to copy, Control F to paste directly in front. Gaussian blur to 50. Okay. Now you should have something that looks like this. And if we look in our layers, we've got multiple scores, all with different levels of blur applied. So what we're going to do is we're going to select that background. We're going to Control C to copy. Control F is going to paste one directly in front. And we're going to bring this to the front. So arrange, bring to front, and our letters will disappear. Our numbers will disappear. And that's exactly what we want. We're going to go to our fill here. We're going to change this to white. Okay. Rather, my apologies, not white. We actually want this gradient. So we're going to click on gradient here on our left. Over here on our right again, we can click on this gradient. If we double click the gradient, we should get a gradient window, which mine popped up over here. Okay. And then you can play with this. So again, we can go with complementary colors here. Why don't we stick with the 2 colors of our quest trackers here. So I'll select the first color. And I'll just paste that in here. Press enter. I'll select, double click the second color. Oops, I accidentally added to my gradient, which I didn't want. Paste, enter. Okay. Cool. Now we've got this box on top of our score with the gradient on it. All right, I'm going to go over here and just select this. Now I'm going to make sure that I've got my gradient piece selected. I'm going to click on opacity here. And right here on the left-hand side, we've got something that's called a blending mode. It's not labeled, but if you hover over it, you should see blending mode. And right now it's set to normal. We're going to change that blending mode to overlay. And once we do that, we'll see now that we've got a really cool looking score area that appears to be glowing. We can also go ahead and round out the corners of our background piece if we like. So probably should have done that first, but that's okay. Okay, so we got this lovely scoreboard that appears to be glowing. Feel free to apply this effect anywhere you like. Okay. Now we can apply a multiplier. We can go ahead and just say here, we just add some text. We're going to have to lower this back down. I'm going to go to something a little bit smaller. Then, 1 second. Right, so we're going to type multiplier. And I'll just do something cheesy like this, like say 8. Okay. And once again, I will, I don't think I'm going to play with the font so much. You know what? I am, because that looks pretty cool. I like that a lot. And then I'm going to add that drop shadow, if it'll allow me. Effects, stylize, drop shadow. That looks pretty cool. I probably should just add a giant X to make that obvious. I mean, it kind of goes redundant. Multiplier, obviously. The idea being that this multiplier goes up as these quests get completed. And feel free to make these bars at various levels if you like. Now, with the exception of making my puzzle pieces, of which I need 5. So I want you guys to make 5. Whoops. Okay. Oops. Oh, because I made a brush, you want to make sure that you... Not sure where that came from out of nowhere like that. I can grab all of the pieces and just delete it. Okay. Okay. All right. So what I want you guys to be able to do now is to make brush here. I want you guys to make 5. Apparently I can't use that. All right, so what I want you guys to be able to do here now is to make 5 custom themed puzzle pieces. Okay, and 1 power up. All right, so the power ups are usually like some kind of bomb or something that will explode multiple pieces or whatever, and then put together your final Match-3 HUD layout. And then I also want to see some menu buttons. Okay, so I want to see you guys make like a play button, pause button, maybe a menu button like the traditional hamburger buttons, possibly around the bottom here or near the top, however you see fit. And this is your Match-3 puzzle tutorial. And then fill up the playboard too, by the way, with all your puzzle pieces once you're done, if that didn't go without saying. Okay, and then don't forget to save. If you have any questions, let us know.